So we're on the last stretch now. This video is going to run through just a few little bits about mum. So return of fertility, a little bit about cervical check, contraception, and baby blues and postnatal depression. Signs to look out for and who you can call if you need any help or support. So starting off with return of fertility. So how soon after delivery will I ovulate? It's very hard to tell. Everyone's a little bit different, but potentially any time from about 2 weeks. So it's important to be mindful of that. There are influencing factors. So maybe exclusively breastfeeding mum might be less likely to ovulate at 2 weeks. However, there is still a 5% chance that she might, so we really don't know. So we'd say kind of be mindful of that. How soon can I resume intercourse? We say whenever both partners feel ready, but being mindful that perineal stitches and abdominal wounds can take 6 weeks to heal fully. And ideally we would, from a physical health point of view, want to allow those wounds to heal well beforehand. After that, it's whenever both partners are feeling ready. What does the research say regarding the next baby? So we know that, when can you have another baby? Well, physically, women do sometimes have babies, anywhere from 10 months after their previous baby. You've probably heard of Irish twins before, but the research does tell us that when 2 consecutive babies are born in 1 year, sometimes the second baby can be a smaller birth weight or sometimes a little bit premature. So ideally, if in an ideal world, we know that it takes 9 months to grow a baby. It takes at least 9 months, if not 18 months, to completely recover after having that baby before you start thinking about having another one, okay? So we say ideally about 18 months between pregnancies. We know that the average first-time mom in Ireland is actually getting a little bit older every year. So sometimes time might not be on your side. You might be 40 having your first baby and you want 2 or 3 babies. So obviously that 18-month rule might not work. And if that was the case, maybe ask your midwife or obstetrician for some pre-conceptual advice before you go home. So this is just information that might just help you get back to being your best self sooner rather than later, if your plan is to conceive and have another baby, a bit sooner rather than later. Okay, so contraception choices. So the HSE website outlines this very well. So my advice would be for you to do some research on this website and have a family planning plan in your head before you leave the hospital. So that when you're asked before you go home if you'd like any prescriptions for contraception, if you would, well, we can organise them for you before you leave. And most definitely by your 6-week checkup, you'll have a little plan in your head when your GP asks you what your plan is, long-term family planning. So it's at these 2 points, leaving the hospital or the 6-week checkup, you're going to be asked. So my advice would be, while baby's still in your tummy, over the next couple of weeks, make a little family planning plan so that you just know the answer when the GP asks you at your 6-week checkup. Cervical check. Every woman over 25 in Ireland is entitled to a free smear test every 3 years. If you're not yet registered and you are over 25, if you could register at www.cervicalcheck.ie, that would be super. If you received a letter while you were expecting, you probably found out that generally we don't perform smear tests on women who are expecting. So if your GP felt it was a better idea not to perform your smear test while you were expecting, we advise that you wait until baby is about 6 months old and have it performed then. You can do 2 things. You can be really diligent and call Cervical Check and let them know you're expecting, and they'll send you another letter in about 6 weeks, or just to hang on to your letter and inform your GP would generally be suffice. Baby blues and postnatal depression. Okay, so baby blues tends to happen around about day 3 or day 4, and it would be a very common physiological thing, okay? And how do we feel when we have baby blues? Generally, maybe a little bit of weepiness or crying for no apparent reason, bit impatient, irritable, anxious, feeling like this isn't me, a bit moody, maybe bad concentration. All these feelings would be completely normal 3 to 4 days and up to 2 weeks after you have your baby, and we'll compass them all under the umbrella of baby blues. Why do they happen? We don't know exactly, but I always think they kind of knock on at about day 3 or day 4, and around day 3 or day 4 there's an awful lot happening. There is your milk probably coming in, which is triggering some hormonal changes, which may be responsible for you feeling a bit more emotional than normal. Day 2, as you probably remember from the feeding video, baby was doing an awful lot of feeding for 24 hours, so you could possibly be feeling absolutely exhausted, so tiredness might have something to do with this, and you're probably going home from hospital on day 3. So, maybe coupled with the tiredness and the milk coming in, possibly triggering you to be a bit more emotional, that might actually cause you to feel a little bit more overwhelmed than you might usually feel on the day that you're going home. So I think it's nearly a perfect storm of things happening that can sometimes result in all these feelings. So it's just to know that they're completely normal, nothing to worry about it, and usually the best thing you can actually do is just get home and close your eyes, sleep, and leave your partner doing a bit of skin to skin with baby in another room. And usually when you wake back up, you're actually feeling like a new person, and then we say sleep when baby does. Certainly for the first 2 weeks. Once baby's about 2 weeks old, you'll start to notice a small pattern unfold, and then we kind of say, look, just maybe if you could factor in a bit of a nap for yourself every day going forward, that'd be great. So postnatal depression. So what do we know about postnatal depression? So we know that it can happen anytime from 2 weeks, and it would be a range of the following symptoms. So it could be anything from difficulty sleeping, insomnia, exhaustion, lack of energy, low sex drive, changes in appetite, weight loss or gain, weepiness, excessive worry, agitation, anxiety, feelings of inadequacy, hopelessness and despair, guilt, sadness, fear of being alone, irritability, difficulty concentrating, panic, anger, and scary thoughts about baby or over concern for baby's health. You don't need to be ticking every single one of these boxes to be having postnatal depression. You just need to be ticking enough of them whereby you don't feel like you're yourself, okay? Things you can do maybe, I suppose, to put you in a place where you might not be ticking as many of these boxes, I would say have a good night's sleep. Sometimes sleep can trigger a few of these. Sometimes sleep could have you lack of sleep could have you walking around feeling a bit irritable or feeling a little bit exhausted or feeling a little bit agitated or difficulties concentrating. And the worry would be that long term it might knock on to more symptoms, eventually bringing you to the place whereby you don't feel like yourself. So I would say probably do your very best to get sleep. I would also say, the key to prevention and early recovery of postnatal depression is extra support and practical help. So let the people who want to help you. There are probably people in your inner circle, moms, cousins, friends, who'd love to pop a dinner up to your house or take the baby out on a walk. So I would say let them. If you trust them, you obviously let them. And that might just give you a teeny bit more time as well, take the pressure off. And if you're sleeping well and you have less dinners to worry about, with the likelihood of potentially ticking enough of those boxes to not feel like yourself, well, it's lessened a little bit. And if you are ticking enough of those symptom boxes whereby you're not feeling like yourself, well, you've done everything possible. You've been having good night, you've been catching up on the sleep that you lost at night during the day, you've been accepting extra help. Unfortunately, postnatal depression is sometimes unavoidable, and if you do feel that all is not right, well, that's when you link in to our mental health support midwives and ask for their support and their advice. So their telephone number is there, 817-2541, or the mobile number 087-6714-086. Worth mentioning, the odd down day is okay, so there might be a day, it would be very normal to have a day, especially in the first weeks of having a new baby, where maybe you just are feeling a little bit overwhelmed. And if it's just the odd day here or there, you know, to chat to somebody you trust, maybe your partner or your mom or your sister. Sometimes that's all you need. But it would be if you felt this was kind of, you know, this feeling not quite like yourself, or feeling overwhelmed or a bit down, was lasting, you know, past a week, on into 10 days, most certainly on into 2 weeks, you'd want to be linking in with somebody just to let them know how you're feeling. The role of the partner in all of this, okay? So physical support. From the time you get home from hospital, your partner is keeping the show on the road. They're cooking, they're cleaning, they're washing clothes. In the midst of it all, maybe they're doing a few nappy changes. You know, they're probably doing the equivalent of them and you. And that's because after a baby, you're probably doing an awful lot of sleeping and an awful lot of feeding and eating. They're your 3 most important jobs, certainly for the first 2 weeks. And after that, if you have slept when baby slept, been fed well, and if you have been feeding your baby well, you probably find you'll actually bounce back to yourself that little bit quicker than you would have done if you weren't given all that time to kind of recoup in the early days. Be an emotional support to each other, okay? So talk to each other, let each other know how you're feeling. Having a new baby can be overwhelming. You know, there's a lot of news involved, and chances are if you're thinking it, your partner's actually thinking it as well. So keep chatting to each other. Motivational support, so again to each other. These super women and these super men need to be told how fantastic that they're doing, okay? And we know as grown-ups we don't need constant recognition, but sometimes when we're a little bit exhausted, you know, a little bit of recognition can go a long way. So keep reminding each other that you're both doing a great job. Adjusting to parenthood. So we say the plan is, there is no plan. You've probably heard this before. And the sooner you're kind of cool with it, the easier it will be. Okay, so your main priority is your little baby. Your second priority is yourself and your partner. And the rest of the world is everything else. Like obviously in order of your close family, friends, and so on. So just, you know, once this little guy is happy, that's the most important thing. If that means being 20 minutes late for a cup of coffee or a lunch date, once this guy's happy, you're happy, everything's going to go a little bit smoother. People are understanding as well. You have a really good excuse. Discuss roles before baby arrives. You know, so if there's anything around the house, even that you're a little bit funny about, you know I'm funny about washing. You know, I'm funny about the washes that go in, what tablets go with them, what colour catchers and so on. If there's anything that you're particularly particular about, and you know that this is probably a role that your partner is going to be filling in, you know, when you have your baby, I think no harm to have a little like induction day and just zip around the jobs you usually do. They probably have the jobs they usually do, but at least if they know how to do your ones, dare I say, properly, everything's going to run a little bit more smoothly after baby's born when they're helping out. Teamwork makes the dream work, okay? So there's, you know, sometimes you do feel like, gosh, I feel like I'm a chancer here. I've been sitting on the couch just feeding my baby for what feels like a day or two now, and I feel like my partner's been like making dinners, washing floors, doing ironing. The aim of the game is just to keep things going. Who cares who's doing what job? The most important thing is that baby is being well fed, mom's well rested, the important things that need to be done in the house are being done. The other things are forgotten, and you're still allowing a little bit of time for each other to kind of, you know, that you can chat together, have a cup of tea together, or cuddle together when your baby's having a bit of sleep. Whatever way you work sleep, it's different for every couple. You know, some couples will, partner might sleep through the night, mom's up with the feeds, and the partner's cooking up a storm the next morning and bringing breakfast in bed. There could be another relationship whereby it works better for the partner to be up, keeping mum company while she's feeding at night, because that's what she wanted. You know, so there's no right or wrong. You do whatever works well, making sure that you're both getting enough sleep. We say trust yourself with all of this parenting. Your gut instinct is incredibly powerful, and as well, you probably have found out from watching the videos that you know an awful lot more than you think you did. You know, subconsciously our brains are like sponges, and since you've been pregnant, as you've been walking around, you've probably been looking in buggies and noticing the way the babies are on their back feet to foot with a cellular blanket. You've probably done a couple of nappy changes yourself, or if not, you've probably observed a few, you know. So a lot of this is actually in there. The videos I think are just helpful because they're showing you that what you thought was actually spot on, you know. So go with your gut, okay, and trust yourself with all of this parenting. If you have any questions, you have buckets of support. You have us here in the Rotunda to certainly ring with any questions for the first 2 weeks. You can ring up until 6 weeks, the outpatient departments or the physio departments. You've got your public health nurse for the first 3.5 years, your GP in the wings all the while. As your child grows up, you've got primary school teachers and so on. So there's a huge amount of people rooting for you who are going to help and support you with all of this. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Just link in with us here in the hospital and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Best of luck with everything. Bye.